What is guys, Tyler once again, and I'm coming at you guys with another content of Cookie Kingdom. In this video, I'm going to be updating you guys on the toppings guide for each of the epic, legendaries, and ancients that are available in this game, and I'll categorize them by DPS, tank, and support at /healer, and to briefly show you guys exactly what toppings are going to be good for each of these cookies. Anyways guys, if you guys find this video helpful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as the like button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you guys don't miss out on any future Cookie Kingdom videos as well as live streams that I do on YouTube. Anyways guys, with all that out of the way, let's get right into the video. So before we get right into the video, I just want to talk about LD Player, who is the sponsor of this video. They have actually made an update recently regarding their emulator that solved the problem that they had with Cookie Kingdom, where the message of failure to utilize the Unity engine or a message similar to that has been fixed with their emulator. So if you guys are downloading the 32 bits, now you can play Cookie Kingdom on your Windows PC. So if you want to play Cookie Kingdom just like me on the computer, then make sure to download LD Player, and the link will be down in the description below, guys. And also thank you LD Player once again for sponsoring this video. Alright guys, so let's get right into it. Starting off, we're going to be talking about DPSs, and the DPSs are going to be mainly using all full searing raspberry, and if there's any exceptions I will let you guys know, but I'm going to be categorizing them just like I said in the introduction: DPS, tank, support, as well as the healers. Alright, so here we go. Let's talk about the first DPS. That's going to be Seafaery. Seafaery is going to use either 5 searing raspberry or 3 searing raspberry, 2 swift chocolate, or even 4 searing raspberry, 1 swift chocolate, and that's going to mainly depend on how much cooldown you want on your Seafaery, and to make it either a 4-second star or a 5-second star depending on your playstyle or your team. Alright, so you want to focus mainly on damage resist as well as cooldown, having those kind of settings. So 5 searing raspberry, 3 searing raspberry, 2 swift chocolate, or 4 searing raspberry, 1 swift chocolate. Alright, so that's going to be Seafaery. So Frost Queen has 2 different builds as well. As second DPS is going to be 5 searing raspberry, or some people do use 5 swift chocolate depending on what kind of team you are using once again, and whether you want to have more cooldown or not. That is going to determine whether you use a 5 swift chocolate or a 5 searing raspberry build. But for now, for me, for my team, I am using 5 searing raspberry. Moving on to the next cookie is going to be Pastry Cookie. Pastry Cookie is also going to be using 5 searing raspberry, mainly for the speed comps. She wants to have more of the damage resist as well as attack. Okay, and she doesn't really need attack speed because of the fact that it will have a massive amount of 50% boost with her skill. So you just want to focus mainly on attack, damage resist, maybe a little bit of crit, and extra attack speed is always good as well. But 5 searing raspberry is going to be essential for Pastry Cookie's topping. Next one is going to be Snow Sugar Cookie. Snow Sugar Cookie has actually 2 different builds as well. You can go with 5 searing raspberry, focusing on damage resist and attack. You don't really need cooldown, but you can also go with 3 searing raspberry and 2 solid almond in order to give Snow Sugar Cookie a little bit of extra damage resist in order for them to survive in the battlefield. Alright, so when they're in the arena, you want them to summon Snow King as many times as possible with the survivability. And so if you want to go with 5 searing raspberry, then you can, but if you want to add that extra tankiness, then go with 3 searing raspberry and 2 solid almonds. Moving on to Poison Mushroom Cookie. Poison Mushroom Cookie is going to be having 5 searing raspberry, only mainly used for guild boss battle. You do want to focus on attack, a little bit of crit, some damage resist as well, and cooldown. Obviously my Poison Mushroom Cookie is not the best right now, but still, if you want to use Poison Mushroom Cookie for the guild boss battle, make sure to have 5 searing raspberry, focusing on attack, damage resist, crit, as well as cooldown. And specifics you can find in different videos as well as other content creators as well. Next one is going to be Vampire Cookie. Vampire Cookie is going to be having 5 searing raspberry as well, guys. Nothing else is pretty much viable with Vampire Cookie because of the fact that he is supposed to just one-shot or deal a ton of single hitting damage, and you want to mainly focus on attack. You do want to have a little bit of damage resist if you want to have him survive, but mainly he's going to be staying in the back, so you don't really need to have damage resist, and then a little bit of cooldown, but mainly focusing on attack as well as crit. That is why my crit percentage is actually at 10.6%. Next is going to be Sorbet Shark Cookie. Sorbet Shark Cookie has different builds as well, but mainly the 2 builds that we are going to be seeing are going to be 5 searing raspberry as well as 3 searing raspberry, 2 swift chocolate. And that is in order for you to mess around with the cooldown a little bit, once again to have that either 4-second star or 5-second star, or even focusing mainly on the guild boss battle. Alright, my cooldown is going to be at 12.4% in order to have a 4-second start, but if you want to have a 5-second start, you can have 8.3% cooldown, but that once again, that is going to be up to you and how you utilize your team inside of the arena as well as the guild boss battle. And then the secondary substats that you want to focus on are going to be attack as well as damage resist in order for Sorbet Shark to not only deal damage but survive in the battlefield once again. Next one is going to be Licorice Cookie. Licorice Cookie really only has one viable build, and that is going to be 5 Swift Chocolate. And you want to definitely focus on maxing out the cooldown in order for you to summon the Licorice Servants as many times as possible and always have it up. And also with the new buff that Licorice Cookie got, if his minions are actually in the battlefield and he's able to cast it again, then he'll have not only 3 but total of 6 minions out in the battlefield for a brief amount of time, allowing you to have not only extra damage but extra tank as well. And you do want to focus on some damage resist in order for Licorice Cookie to survive, not only in arena as well as PvE or story mode, but also in the guild boss battle. Next is going to be Black Raisin Cookie. Black Raisin Cookie is going to be using 5 Searing Raspberry, guys, mainly focusing on attack, a little bit of damage resist, as well as a little bit of cooldown if you do want to use the skill more often. But main 3 stats actually are going to be attack, crit, damage resist. Alright, but main 2 once again are going to be attack and damage resist. Alright, moving on to Twizzly Gummy Cookie. Twizzly Gummy Cookie is going to actually have 2 builds as well, guys, and one of them is going to be Juicy Apple Jelly Topping, guys. That is going to allow you to have maximum crit crit percentage in order for you to maximize the damage that she does with her skill, because her skill is going to be basing off of whether she can crit or not, and she's going to get the extra 350%. But if you're using Twizzly Gummy Cookie with maybe like Mala Sauce or with the site and using her in a crit team, then she can actually have either 2 Juicy Apple Jelly and 3 Searing Raspberry, or even 2 Searing Raspberry, 3 Juicy Apple Jelly. But mainly it's going to be either 5 of the Juicy Apple Jelly or 3 Searing Raspberry, 2 Juicy Apple Jellies in order to maximize the damage and the crit percentage using her inside of a crit team. Alright, next one is going to be Pumpkin Pie. Pumpkin Pie is, I'm actually going to be putting her into a DPS slot because of the fact that she is able to use Pom Pom to deal a ton of damage, but she is going to be using 5 Solid Almond. Some people do use 3 Searing Raspberry, 2 Solid Almond in order to increase her attack a little bit, but that is up to you. But mainly most builds are going to be using 5 Solid Almond, and in order to maximize her survivability inside of the game and inside of other battles, you want to have 5 Solid Almond, and she will just constantly use Pom Pom and summon Pom Pom in order to deal a maximum amount of damage as well as tank for the team. Next is going to be Riot Cookie. Riot Cookie is going to be using 5 Searing Raspberry as well, guys, and the substats that you want to focus on Riot Cookie are going to be attack, damage resist, as well as some cooldown. So it will depend on what team you use Riot Cookie for, but if you're mainly just using Riot Cookie for either the guild boss battle, if you're still using her for the guild boss battle, or if you're using her to deal with some of the bosses that are going to be for the late game, then you'll be mainly focusing on attack as well as damage resist. Cooldown is going to be helpful in certain scenarios, but mainly the 2 stats that you want to focus on are going to be attack, damage resist, and on the side, cooldown is definitely going to help. Next one is going to be Tiger Lily. My Tiger Lily is not equipped with any toppings, but previously when I used to use the Ginger Brave Tiger Lily Almond Cheese comp or one-shot comp, I used to use 3 Swift Chocolate as well as 1 Solid Almond, 1 Bouncy Caramel, and that is in order for me to increase the cooldown as well as the attack speed and the damage resist that she will have, because she wants to attack as well as survive in order to cast her stun again. But the build that you can definitely go with is going to be 3 Swift Chocolate and 2 Solid Almond, or you can go with 3 Swift Chocolate and 2 Bouncy Caramel. It's going to be up to you, but having damage resist is going to definitely help out more than having a little bit extra attack speed, so please choose wisely. You just really want to have at least 10.3% cooldown, I believe, in order for her to use her skill right after Gingerbread before Almond uses her skill. Next one is going to be Lilac Cookie, guys. Lilac Cookie is actually going to be part of the DPS category because his skill is actually not really a supporting skill, but a damage resist skill. So it's going to increase not only his attack but other cookies attack as well, and that's where the supporting category comes into play. But the 3 different builds that you can go with Lilac Cookie is going to be 5 solid almond, like how I am using him right now in the Mayhem, or you can use 5 searing raspberry, or you can use 3 searing raspberry, 2 solid almond, depending on the scenario. But if you're going to be mainly using Lilac Cookie for DPS, then I highly suggest you go with 3 searing raspberry and 2 solid almond in order for him to not only survive but deal a ton of damage as a secondary DPS of the speed comp. Alright guys, next one is going to be Latte Cookie. Latte Cookie is going to be having 5 Swift Chocolate or 5 searing raspberry, depending on what kind of build you want to go with. But for me, I like to use my Latte Cookie as more of a utility slash sub DPS. So if you do want to use Latte Cookie like that, go with 5 Swift Chocolate. But if you want to use her as a main DPS and deal more damage with her, then definitely 5 searing raspberry is going to be the best way to go with Latte Cookie. Alright, next cookie is going to be Squid Ink Cookie, and Squid Ink Cookie is going to be using 5 searing raspberry, guys, mainly focusing on attack and a little bit of damage resist as cooldown when it's necessary. Next one is going to be Mango Cookie, and Mango Cookie is going to be very similar to Latte Cookie, and I highly suggest you either go with the 5 searing raspberry build or 5 Swift Chocolate build, depending on whether you want to use the skill more often to keep the 10% attack speed buff as well as the knockbacks up, or deal just a straight up ton of damage right away with the 5 searing raspberry build. But those are the 2 builds that you want to go with Mango Cookie, and the substats are going to be once again attack, damage resist, as well as a little bit of cooldown. So the next cookie is going to be Chili Pepper Cookie, our very average DPS cookie. You want to go with 5 searing raspberry, or if you want to, you can actually go with 3 searing raspberry as well as 2 Swift Chocolate in order to increase the cooldown a little bit, in order to have her use her skill a lot faster. But she already has a very short cooldown of 12 seconds, so I do recommend you using 5 searing raspberry if you're using Chili Pepper Cookie. And the last DPS on the list is going to be Espresso Cookie, and Espresso Cookie is going to be using 5 searing raspberry as well, guys, and you want to mainly focus on attack, damage resist, as well as cooldown when it is necessary. I don't have my Espresso Cookie built because he actually entered my list of cookies very late, and I only got him by the time I had better cookies leveled up, so I have never actually invested in Espresso Cookie. That's why he's only level 26. Alright guys, alright, now with all of the DPSs out of the way, the next category is going to be the tanks or the frontline, and I'm going to start out with Hollowberry Cookie. Hollowberry Cookie is going to be using 5 solid almond, mainly focusing on damage resist as well as crit resist, because there is that extra crit damage that has been added into the game with the laboratory. So if you want to, then make sure to use 5 solid almond to buff her up in order for her to do the main tanking. And if you do want to have extra cooldown, it is going to be a little bit of beneficial for her, because she will actually be able to use her skill a little bit faster than the enemy Hollowberry if you're doing a mirror matchup in the arena. So the 3 substats that you want to mainly focus on are going to be damage resist, number 1, crit resist, as well as cooldown. Next is going to be Raspberry Cookie. Raspberry Cookie is mainly only used for the arena and for the mayhem. If you're using Raspberry Cookie, then you want to be focusing on using her with the triple tank meta, and when that is the case, then you want to be using 5 searing raspberry and focusing on attack as well as crit and the damage resist in order for her to survive. If you are using her only as the main tank on your team, then I would highly suggest go with 5 solid almond. If not, you can go with hybrid, 3 searing raspberry as well as 2 solid almond. The next cookie is going to be Strawberry Crate Cookie, and Strawberry Crate Cookie is going to have a very I would say a versatile build, but main build that you're gonna have is going to be 5 Swift Chocolate. But here is the catch, guys. You need to have enough damage resist on your Strawberry Crate Cookie with the 5 Swift Chocolate in order for them to be used as your main tank. Alright, so the standard build is going to be having at least 17.3% cooldown with the 5 Swift Chocolate in order to get a boost towards the 22.3% in order to have a 3-second start. And also you want to have at least about 20 to 25% damage resist when it is possible. If you cannot do that and you have to sacrifice damage resist in order to have a faster cooldown, then I highly suggest you go with 5 solid almond instead in order to increase the damage resist and have Strawberry Crate be a very tanky front line. And you can also do something like a hybrid 3 swift chocolate and 2 solid almond and have a decent amount of cooldown and damage resist, but this can also cause a problem because if you're actually using strawberry crepe as a front tank and you have someone like Strawberry Shark, then you can actually have Strawberry Crepe push the enemies away, preventing Strawberry Shark Cookies attack or skill from actually hitting the enemies. So please make sure to test it out before you guys actually jump into the arena, and I highly suggest those 3 builds if you're using Strawberry Crepe Cookie as your tank. Next one is going to be Mallet Sauce Cookie. Mallet Sauce Cookie actually has 2 different builds as well, guys, and it's going to be 5 swift chocolate, very similar to how Strawberry Crepe is, because they do actually have a skill cooldown that is exactly the same. So you can actually use the same build that you use for Strawberry Crepe with the 5 swift chocolate onto Mallet Sauce Cookie, or if you're using Mallet Sauce Cookie on a crit speed comp build that you use for the mayhem, then actually could use 5 solid almond as well. That is what I'm using, mainly focusing on damage resist. You don't really need to have any cooldown or attack speed or crit because you don't want to give Mallet Sauce Cookie the extra boost. I just mainly focus on the damage resist in order for Mallet Sauce Cookie to be tanky and survive the incoming damage to provide the buff as many times as possible. Next one is going to be Moon Rabbit Cookie. Moon Rabbit Cookie is going to be using 5 swift chocolate or 5 solid almond. Alright guys, depending on the build that you are going to have, you want to have Moon Rabbit Cookie either use a skill more often in order to get the healing benefits with her skill, or you can use 5 solid almond in order to make her super tanky. But I have to say from experience that Moon Rabbit Cookie is mainly going to be using 5 swift chocolate, just having a decent amount of cooldown as well as a good amount of damage resist in order for her to tank as well as heal herself and provide that skill on the enemies in order for them to heal you when they are defeated. So that's going to be the 2 builds that I would suggest for Moon Rabbit Cookie. Next one is going to be Madeline Cookie, guys. Madeline Cookie also has actually 3 different builds, and that's going to be either using 5 solid almond for the mayhem like me in order for him to survive and deal a ton of damage, or you can go with 5 searing raspberry, that's more damage oriented and you want to focus on damage resist, or you can go with the hybrid build of 3 searing raspberry and 2 solid almond, focusing on not only attack but also in the damage resist. And these other substats that you want to really focus on is going to be attack speed, because Madeline Cookie needs to have the higher attack speed in order to get the buff from the enchanted robe. So those are going to be the 3 substats that I'll watch out for Madeline Cookie: attack, damage resist, as well as cooldown. And as a bonus, if you do plan to use Madeline Cookie as a crit speed comp, then crit percentage is also going to help. Next one is going to be Werewolf Cookie. Werewolf Cookie is a okay cookie to use in the beginning, but I don't really recommend you use him mainly for the late game. But if you do want to use Werewolf Cookie as your main tank, then I highly suggest using 5 solid almond. But if you want to use Werewolf Cookie for only story mode, then you can actually work with 3 searing raspberry, 2 solid almond, focusing on damage resist substat in order for you to have Werewolf Cookie actually tank for the team. Next one is going to be Milk Cookie. Milk Cookie actually is going to be using 5 swift chocolate, and the reason why you want to use 5 swift chocolate is because Milk Cookie has a skill where not only does he taunt, but he will actually gain a 50% damage resist buff for 5 seconds. And because there is a damage resist cap, I believe it's around 85%, you can't have full solid almond and then getting that extra 50%. It will not do you any benefit. So because it is a very short cooldown of 12 seconds, you want to have Milk Cookie to have 5 swift chocolate in order for him to constantly cast the skill, gaining not only that 50% buff of the damage resist, but having that taunt to help your team survive in battle. So I would say 5 swift chocolate is going to be the best build, and mainly focusing on damage resist and a little bit of cooldown as well. Next one is going to be Dark Choco Cookie. I would highly recommend that you use 5 solid almond for Dark Choco Cookie because of the fact that he is a cookie that has been out since the game has been released. His stats are not as good as the newer cookies, and because of that, you want to have 5 solid almond to maximize his survivability in the game. But if you're using him for the guild boss battle and the main focus is attack and dealing more damage, then you can actually go with 5 searing raspberry and having a good amount of damage resist, around 20 to 25%, in order for him to not only survive but deal a ton more damage. And his main focus is going to be using his skill in order to provide that 20% defense debuff to the enemy. Those are going to be the two topping guides that I want to say for Dark Choco. Next one is going to be Red Velvet. Red Velvet actually has 3 different builds that I would recommend for you guys, and that is either using a 5 Swift Chocolate, focusing on the cooldown in order to use the skill more often and having extra damage resist on the side to make him a tank, or you can go with the 5 Steering Raspberry, focusing on damage as well as damage resist in order to make him a one-shot super strong tank with the skill. Or you can go with 5 Solid Almond, not really focusing on the cooldown or the attack, but making him survive in the front in order to make him a very strong tank. And on the bonus, you will have the 20-second long cooldown of the insane long 5-second stun. So those are going to be the 3 different builds that I would say is viable for Red Velvet Cookie. And lastly, for our tank lineup is going to be Purple Yam Cookie, and I'll highly suggest for Purple Yam to use actually 5 Swift Chocolate in order to constantly cast a spell, or you can go with 5 Solid Almond in order to make him a tank, having extra skill on the side to just push away the enemies. The substats that you want to focus on Purple Yam are going to be a little bit of cooldown or mainly focusing on just damage resist. I forgot about Kumio Cookie, but Kumio Cookie is going to be using a very similar build as Werewolf. I would say either go with 5 Solid Almond in order to use Kumio Cookie as the only tank, or you can use Kumio Cookie with either 3 Steering Raspberry and 2 Solid Almond in order to increase the attack, or you can use a 5 Steering Raspberry with the damage resist substat. But I would say the best build is either going to be the 5 Solid Almond or 3 Steering Raspberry, 2 Solid Almond for Kumio Cookie. Alright guys, that's going to end the tank lineup, and lastly are going to be the support slash healer, and I'm going to start it off with Pure Vanilla. Pure Vanilla is actually going to have several different builds that you could actually use with him, but the main one is going to be 5 Solid Almond that I used to use, focusing on damage resist and having a cooldown around 6, 8 or even 9%. But for me right now, currently in the arena, I'm actually using 3 Solid Almond, 2 Swift Chocolate. Okay, so you can use that in order to focus not only on the damage resist, but having extra cooldown on the side as well. And if you do want to use the 4 Solid Almond, 1 Swift Chocolate, that is also a option as well. I don't recommend you use 5 or any of the Steering Raspberry because his heal is already really powerful, and I'll say survivability slash the frequency of his skill is going to be more important than healing a little bit more with Steering Raspberry. Next one on the line is going to be Parfait Cookie. Parfait Cookie has actually I would say 2 different builds as well, or even 3 in some cases, and that's going to include this build that I have currently, 3 Swift Chocolate, 2 Solid Almond, or you can go with 3 Solid Almond, 2 Swift Chocolate, or you can once again go 5 Solid Almond to just maximize the survivability of Parfait Cookie. Because of the fact that she is a support cookie, her defense is not that high, her HP is also not that high, and having extra damage resist is going to allow her to survive in battle. So that's the reason why I used to use 5 Solid Almond when I used to use Parfait Cookie in the arena. But right now in the current meta, she is going to require a lot of cooldown in order for her to use her skill, in order to help your team to get out of Frost Queen Cookie's freeze a lot faster. And that is the reason why I have 3 Swift Chocolate and 2 Solid Almond, focusing on cooldown as well as damage resist. Next cookie is going to be Cotton Cookie. Cotton Cookie is in the same category as Parfait Cookie, and I would say the same exact build is going to work for Cotton Cookie, and it's just going to depend on how much damage resist as slash cooldown you want to have on each of these cookies. It's just going to depend on what team you want to build with Cotton Cookie, and that's going to mainly focus on having a certain amount of damage resist slash cooldown. Next cookie is going to be Sparkling Cookie. I don't really have Sparkling Cookie build up right now because I am not using him, but I used to use him with 3 Swift Chocolate, 2 Solid Almond to have the cooldown a little bit higher, but I would highly suggest you just go with 5 Solid Almond in order for him to survive a lot longer, in order to cast a spell as many times as possible. But you can once again go with the hybrid build of having 3 Swift Chocolate as well as 2 Solid Almond. Next one is going to be Mint Choco Cookie. Mint Choco Cookie is going to use 5 Solid Almond in order for him to survive a lot longer and to cast his spell to give the attack speed boost for your speed comp, or you can go with a little bit of a hybrid once again with including like 2 Swift Chocolate or 3 Swift Chocolate in order to increase the cooldown. But I say 5 Solid Almond is going to be a more standard build for Mint Choco Cookie. Almond Cookie is going to be a support that is going to be mainly used for a one-shot build or a team where you want to deal a ton of damage with damage link, and when that is the case, you want to use 5 solid almond, and that is going to be it, focusing on damage resist. You don't want to have any cooldown, but there is that one build that I shared with you guys. If you want to use that build, that you're going to have to use 5 swift chocolate in order to make almond cookies skill one of the first before any of the other cookies. But I want to tell you guys, main build is going to be 5 solid almond. Next one is going to be Fit Cookie. Fit Cookie is actually going to use either 5 solid almond or 3 swift chocolate and 2 solid almond, and it's going to depend on whether you want to have the extra cooldown in order to cast the spell a lot faster before the enemies, maybe Seafair or Frost Queen, uses their skill, and help your teams take less damage from them, because Fake Cookie did get a buff of decreasing the attack of the enemies by 25% for 7 seconds. So having that extra cooldown is going to help, but I highly suggest that you have extra damage resist as well in order for Fake Cookie to survive in the battle. Next one is going to be Herb Cookie. I would say the build for Herb Cookie is going to either be a 3 swift chocolate, 2 solid almond, or you can even go with 5 solid almond, but I say the better build is going to be 3 swift chocolate and 2 solid almond in order to have his skill up all the time, and adding the extra damage resist on the side, because you want your healers to survive in order for them to use their skill more often. So that's going to be the build that I would say Herb Cookie should go. And then Pomegranate is going to be using same build, kind of like how Herb Cookie is, 3 swift chocolate, 2 solid almond, or I have seen people also go with 5 solid almond or go with 5 searing raspberry, but I would say the best build is going to be 3 swift chocolate and 2 solid almond. But once again, it's going to depend on how much cooldown you want with Pomegranate's skill, or how much damage resist you want to have on her in order for her to survive inside of the battle. And last cookie is going to be Cream Puff Cookie. If you're deciding to use Cream Puff Cookie, then I would say use 5 searing raspberry or 5 swift chocolate, but I would say the best option is just not use Cream Puff Cookie. But if you really want to use her, then go with the 2 builds that I've suggested, focusing on damage resist, attack, as well as cooldown. And with that, guys, I believe I went over every single epic as well as the ancient legendaries that are currently available in the game. I am not going over the substats or the toppings for rare as well as common, because that means I have to do 64 of these cookies. If you do want to specifically have any of these answered, then maybe you can either ask me during the live stream, leave it down in the comment below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible, or you can message me on Discord for me to answer that question as well. But I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you guys did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as the like button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you guys don't miss out on any future Cookie and Kingdom videos as well as live streams that I do on YouTube. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching once again, and I'll see you guys all next time.